Welcome to another edition of Lodging on Demand. In this episode, Lodging Editor-in-Chief Dennis Nessler catches up with Glen Greenawalt to discuss the ongoing labor crisis in the lodging industry and some of the potential staffing solutions that are available. Greenawalt also discusses some of the macroeconomic challenges that exist and are likely to impact the overall labor situation in the months ahead.
Hi, this is Dennis Nessler, Editor-in-Chief of Lodging Magazine. I'm here today with Glen Greenawalt, Chief Operating Officer for LGC Staffing. Glen, welcome to the Lodging on Demand.
Dennis, glad to be here.
Thank you. Glen, tell us a little bit about LGC and what you guys do.
Yeah, LGC. We started LGC in 2003, myself and one other partner, George Lesmeister. We are a hospitality staffing company, so we don't, we're strictly hospitality. We don't mess around with labor or warehouse or anything like that. So we've got, as a company, 45 offices in the U.S. We W-2'd about 30,000 employees last year on the temporary basis. So we've got some scope and size to service our clients better with. And we do a lot of temporary placement. We also do temp to hire. We do direct hire placement. And then we also offer some services like market assessment and things like that for some of our clients.
Okay, great. Lodging industry has been, had a huge labor issue last several years, obviously since COVID, really. What are some of the things you've observed? You guys have been around for a while. What are some of the big challenges that you see in the last several years within the lodging industry?
Yeah, COVID was definitely challenging. There was quite a few factors that kind of came into play during COVID. One of them was obviously, people got used to staying at home. They were getting, checks from the government. There was a big push for work from home. Uber was kind of, cutting this lane for the 1099 employee. So kind of all this mix was happening. And at the same time, you have this a generation that's staying at home longer than ever that doesn't maybe need to work as much. There's not as much of a need for them. So all of these kind of things have kind of been coming into play, and they've really come into a head. So one of the things that we look at is, well, there's the unemployment rate, which shows very low, but then there's another metric called the workforce participation rate. And if you look at that, that's how many people are actually participating who want to work in the marketplace. And that number has been shrinking since the late 90s, and it's kind of getting to this critical place. So less and less people want to work, and then all the other factors. And we also there's another kind of relevant statistic that we look at. It's the amount of people that are just filing for permanent disability. That number has really skyrocketed in the last few years. So just people are just exiting the workforce and not returning.
Yeah. What do you know what the participation number that you referenced is as compared to, maybe when you guys started in the early part of the 2000s?
I can't quote it off. I'd be a disservice to try to quote something on my head, but I know it's dropped dramatically. So
Yeah.
when you get less and less people participating in the workforce, it makes the unemployment numbers look better than they should, really. So
Right.
if everybody was participating, the unemployment numbers wouldn't look as rosy as they are today.
Gotcha. We know that the worker has changed, as you referenced. The mindset has changed for the younger generation, for sure. More remote, et cetera. What about things like flex hours and flex pay? How much are you seeing that with some of your clients, and how much has that had an impact?
I think it's had a huge impact. And the flex labor has kind of been around. So even in 2003, LGC was doing flex labor in terms of, if you called me, I could get a 4-hour dish, I could get a dishwasher there and within the next 30 minutes, and they might be there for 4 hours. So the concept has been around. I think that the big deal though is, like I said, the Uber kind of push and this proliferation of ride sharing and app technology created a new demand um, for these type. It's carved out a whole nother niche that kind of took away from the hospitality industry. So before, the staffing companies like myself, the traditional ones, were filling the need for the hotels, and now the landscape is so much changed because um, not only are the hotels competing the hotels are competing for workforce with places like Uber, DoorDash, or any number of apps. So the competition in the space is what's changed the most. There's much higher demand, and you really see that with the wages kind of being driven up there.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain positions within hospitality that you guys see a greater demand for? I think you mentioned, dishwasher, but is that one of them, or are there certain types of positions that you guys see a lot of demand for?
I think that across the board, there's a greater need for all types of positions. One thing that we've kind of noted is after COVID, COVID really shut down what we call the front of the house, so banker servers and bartenders in these big kind of huge conventions that were 5,000-6,000 people eating at once. COVID really killed that. So that has been an area that we haven't seen as much rebound in. That hasn't fully returned from our perspective as much. So everything's up except for maybe kind of these big banquet stuff. Companies just they haven't kind of re-engaged with that idea. Whether they will or not, I'm not sure, but that's something that we've definitely noticed. But otherwise, the need for um, food service, like the culinary, the back of the house, is really in high demand, and also for concessions type labor has been busy.
Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned the debt crisis when we were talking, and some of the economic things that are going on. How do you see that shaking out in terms of the macroeconomics and the workforce?
Yeah, I think that the macro right now is really the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Everybody's kind of focused on. They say generals fight the last war, meaning they prepare for what it was in the past instead of what's coming in the future. So a lot of people right now are looking at, what am I going to do for labor in 2024? And they're kind of ignoring the bigger picture, which is the macro, and specifically both increasing interest rates and increasing inflation. I don't think those things are going to go away. I think they're going to get much worse over the next few years. And just because history tells us that, but also just mathematically, I think I checked this morning, the US debt was 33.7 trillion. And that's just what's on the books, because they don't count the off balance sheet debt, which is the Social Security, um, Medicare, Medicaid, government pensions is in that number. That's estimated to be at about 120 trillion. So all told, we're north of 150 trillion in debt, and it's going to be creating some problems that aren't going to be able to be ignored. So right now we have rising interest rates, but that's not great for the government, because when the interest rates go up, they're paying more interest on that debt. So the Fed is kind of stuck right now. So we can fight inflation, and we can kill, American business and the stock market, and the banks will go out of business too, which some already have. Or we can let inflation run and save everything. And historically, 100% of the time they choose inflation, because nobody's going to be the bad guy and say, we're going to kill Social Security this month forever. Right. So I just think that in our space, that's something we're watching closely, and it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Like I don't think that at all. I think it's an opportunity for those that see it, and they can say, okay, in the 40s were a high interest rate environment. There were three waves of inflation then. The 70s were a high interest rate environment, three waves of inflation. So you can look historically and say, what did the companies do then? What did the other hotels, food service providers do? How did they fare then, and who won? So and really, it's probably just about being fiscally responsible with your business, getting the debt paid down, making sure you have a good cash flow, making sure you're just not living on investment money, or loans, because that will dry up. So it's an opportunity for those that really want to take the time to clean up their business, run it off the financials, and not look for the bank will give me this great loan if I get into trouble in the next 2 or 3 years, because that just may not be there for them anymore. So I think that's a really big deal that people aren't paying attention to, but it's still going to come.
Sure. Are there certain types of properties that you guys work with kind of more regularly than others? Are there certain kinds of hoteliers that go to you when they're in need?
No, we run the gamut. We have we're working with the top three biggest food service providers in the world. We work with the major hotel brands, but we also work with single unit operators and even the smallest caterers, just to really to enhance their capabilities or to supplement their needs so they don't have to carry a big staff all the time, just to keep more nimble for them, really. So, and I think we really run the gambit there of size and scope for clients.
Right, right. Let's talk a little bit about technology. We know that the impact of technology on the industry in the last few years. How has that impacted the labor force and specifically how hotels are operating? What are some of the changes that you've seen?
Yeah, the technology has made crazy changes in the business. And anybody could observe that. I feel like just by looking at it, and I feel like it's not what everybody thought it was going to be. And I'm not here to say the app or gig type staffing venues are going to go away 100%. That would be foolish. But if you look at I was staffing in the late 1990s when the internet came out, and everybody said it's going to change everything. There's not going to be no staffing companies anymore. We don't need them. And there was kind of an overplay. And then you saw, the .com crash happen, and pet.coms and all these big names kind of went away. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with the technology push. And I don't think it's been that great for the industry. It's not, like I said, it's probably not the solution that everybody thought it was going to be. And it's taken an industry that's about hospitality, that's warm, greeting, and it made it much more cold, the way Uber is, where people are just, kind of numbers, and they're thrown in the system, and the algorithm will spit out who's supposed to come and work today. So I think that it's probably peaking and will come back in terms of the app stuff, especially, because there's some legislation that's turning around that too. But I don't think it's been, like I said, I just don't think it's been that great for the industry as a whole. And when people start re-engaging with the staff at a different level and getting to know them, it's going to be much, much better for them, because the employees want that, and we see that.
Lastly, as we wrap up 2023, next couple of months, and then head into 24, what are you looking at? What are your thoughts in terms of the industry in general and staffing and labor within the industry? Are you bullish in terms of 24? What do you see ahead?
Yeah, I'm not bullish, and I think that winter is coming, and those that are prepared, again, like I'm not a doom and gloom person, but there just are natural cycles that happen, and we are ready for one. We're kind of over ready for one, and I think that a lot of things are going to come to a head in 2024. I think we'll see increasing pressure on wages, and I know a lot of the hotels are resisting that now, because a lot of positions have doubled in pay already, and we don't set that rate; the market does. So I think we'll see increasing wage pressure. I think that despite if there's some recessionary impulses, that there's still going to be tight labor market, and increasing interest rates, at least for a while. But I think some of the damage of that's going to be coming through. So again, it's the most prepared can use this to really solidify their business, and if they get it ready, people still, if it's wintertime, people can still ski and have fun, right? But only the most prepared can. If you're trying to play catch up from the fall, like that's not going to work. So I just think it's going to be a little rougher ride, and there's going to be some good things that come out of it. I think Airbnb has taken a big chunk out of the hotel and lodging space, and I think some of that will be coming back. There's all sorts of problems with that and in their future too. So I think there's some great things, and I think if you just weather this and really clean up your business model and get it correct, then you'll be much better positioned to handle it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Glenn, thanks so much for your time and for joining us on Lodging on Demand, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you for listening to Lodging on Demand. If you want more content like this, subscribe to Lodging Magazine on YouTube. You can also subscribe to Lodging on Demand wherever you get your podcasts. For news and updates, follow @Lodging Magazine on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or visit us at lodgingmagazine.com.